be impressed with the I will shortly. I think you can start us up, Chief. Take time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you all being here tonight for the last regularly scheduled meeting of the Asheboro City Council for this fiscal year, calendar year, I'm sorry, the December meeting. And we'll call this meeting to order. I would like, in just a second, I'll ask you to take a moment of silent prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. But prior to that, I want to mention a couple of people that we need to keep in our thoughts and prayers. A fellow here, one of our citizens, Bob Langston, who was our All-America City team captain, was very instrumental in us winning the All-America City Award back in '16, is currently in the hospital with some pretty serious health problems. Some of you may have noticed before you left home tonight that former mayor and longtime mayor pro tem in Greensboro, Yvonne Johnson, who was the first African-American mayor in the city of Greensboro, passed away this afternoon, or sometime today.
She had a long time, 30-some years.
Yeah, she had a lot of years of service representing the citizens of Greensboro. She served one term as mayor and 6 years as mayor pro tem, and seemed to be the that happens every time we're sitting in this room. But very seldom does it happen this early. It's usually a little bit later on when we're really in the middle of something. But I would ask that even if you didn't know them or don't know them, please pray for their families and their friends and associates. And now I would ask that we all stand, and if you will join me in a moment of silent meditation, and I invite you to pray in any manner that you are accustomed, and we will follow that with a pledge of allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's always gratifying when we have young people in the room. Tonight we're celebrating with the Blue Comet Youth Football. So I will call on Mr. Ryan Patton, who's a member of our school board, Asheboro City School Board, and Mr. Ben Hughes, and being the administrator and coach of the program, and they've got some recognitions to make.
Absolutely. Let's get our players and cheerleaders lined up in here. Thank you, Mayor and the board, for having us tonight.
This is a big occasion.
Right. Come along the front. Yeah. Yeah. Come along the front.
Come along the front right here.
Come on over here. Some of you spread out along the front here.
Gonna make some pictures of this.
You know, ultimately, these are the guys that are gonna win the guys and girls that are gonna bring home a conference championship and possibly a state championship.
You better believe it. So, Mayor and the council, my name's Ryan Patton. I am the president of the BCYFA board, cheer and football. And I'm here strictly just to thank you, because we couldn't do this without you. Your support and your resources are the way this is possible. 3 years ago, John and I sat down and we said, how do we fix football around here? And this is the solution. And Ben Hughes is our athletic director for our program. He's got the report card for this year. I think you're gonna be excited to hear what all was accomplished, and I'm gonna hand it over to Ben.
So Ryan only gave me a few moments' notice to kind of put together some words, but, so anyway, thanks for having us here this evening. The 2024 BCYFA football and cheer season was very successful and memorable season, to say the least. We started this season with a little over 200 football players and cheerleaders. There were over 140 football players and approximately 60 cheerleaders that signed up to be a part of this organization. We're very excited and encouraged to see this kind of growth and participation in youth athletics. I'm proud to report that in our third season, we've managed again to have all Blue Comet teams finish either first or second place in the regular season. Our 6U team, coached by Jared Bowman, he led the 6U team they ended up tying for first place in the conference with a 4-1 record. Our 8U team, coached by Marlon Morris, those guys also finished with a 4-1 record in the conference and finished in second place, tied in second place, I'm sorry. Our 10U team, coached by Jake Snow, and Coach Jalen Brower as well. But we finished with, and I actually helped out with that team too. So they finished with an overall record of 8-2 this year. They finished first in the postseason RCYFL tournament, second in the conference, and came up just shy of the BTYFL and RCYFL Super Bowl. Our 12U team, coached by Jared Bowman again, he ended up having to do double duty this year. You know, hats off to him. He did the little guys and the big guys, so he had a full task. His team finished with an overall record of 8-1, first place in the postseason tournament, first in the regular season, and they ended up, if you don't mind holding it up, they ended up winning all of it with the Super Bowl as well. Actually, Colt didn't hold up, so we want Colt, go ahead and hold up the 10U. The 10U also won the postseason tournament, so they were champions of our conference. Of course, Brayton. So then 12U not only won the championship in the postseason, but they won both the Super Bowl. So essentially, the 12U team just won out. So hats off to them; they did great this year.
Guilford County as well, Randolph County.
Yeah, they won both divisions. So I'd like to congratulate all these players and cheerleaders and coaches on all their hard work. I would especially like to thank the city for helping to make all this possible. The future of Blue Comet football and cheer is very promising, and I can't wait to see what these kids do when they reach our middle school and high schools.
Man, I've got a question.
Sure.
Just for the edification of us that don't get out there every Saturday.
Right.
Tell us who some of the teams are that these guys compete with.
Sure. Well, so last year, the previous 2 seasons, we were in a conference called CCY or CCYL, right? Yeah, and so and what they ended up doing was splitting it off, and they mixed theirs up. So we ended up creating a new conference, actually Randolph County Youth Football League. And so that conference, which I just said earlier, we all finished either first or second place. It consists of Randleman, Eastern Randolph, Providence Grove, URE Charter Academy, and Trinity, Archdale Trinity. So that's our actual conference. And then what we do at the end of the season, during the season we play 2 non-conference games. So we end up playing like Eden, some of the teams outside of our conference. They're in Piedmont Triad Youth Football. So we'd have 2 non-conference games, and then we do all that. At the end, our number 1 teams play their number 1 teams. So our 12U team and our 10U team, since we both won our conference, we end up playing their number 1 teams. And, you know, I said earlier, the 12U team, they end up winning. The 10U, we fell a little short, but we had a great season overall. So those are the teams. So PTYFL, what we have? We have Eden. Help me out.
Northwest, McMichael, Southeast Guilford, Northern,
Yeah.
Eden.
Yeah, Northwest, Northern, Southeast Guilford, Eden, Michael, Northern Guilford. So I think the 12 you guys played what, Northern?
Northwest,
No, you played Southeast Guilford.
championship, yeah.
For the Super Bowl, the 10U team, we played Northern Guilford. So,
The Super Bowl is their champion versus our champion.
yeah, so our number ones played their number one. So what we did, we had two different conferences come together. That way we have 12 teams. Basically, the number ones out of the 12 teams played each other for the Super Bowl. And, yeah, we were really excited how well the whole season went this year, as far as I'm concerned. Wouldn't you guys agree? Yeah, Super Bowl was just, they made it, for the kids, they made it really special. They played music, they just had them, it was just a great situation as far as I'm concerned. What'd you guys? You guys have a good time? Yeah. What about you girls? Y'all have a good time? All right.
And
Can't win games without cheerleaders.
we need a big trophy case, Bill.
You play at, the high school some and or the middle school, or where do you play?
So most of our home games, we'll host them at the high school. We did play one game at the Zoo City Sportsplex. So those are our two home fields. The Super Bowl was done at Southeast Guilford, and then the Randolph County Championship, that was actually done at Eastern Randolph. The good thing about this new league is it won't be the same place. So we'll move it around. So next year we may end up hosting it at Asheboro. So last year we did the Jamboree, which was insane. I think I scheduled 37 teams to try to play within 6 hours. And I was up all night trying to get all that facilitated. But I don't look forward to doing that again. But maybe a Super Bowl would be nice, hosting that. But yeah, we end up playing at the high school. These are young Comets. We want them to play where the big boys play. That way they have that whole atmosphere. We try to make it just like the varsity team. We do the smoke grenades. We let them run out of the tunnel. That way they're a blue Comet from this age all the way up to this age.
And Mayor, their uniforms are really cool. You can reverse them and they're white.
Yep. Yeah.
So they got a white on one side and.
Yeah. Pull your shirt up that way you can see it.
That's pretty cool.
So if we go play somebody and they have a blue uniform on, we'll just grab their shirt and flip it over real quick.
So you got anything to add?
Yeah, I do. I just want to kind of hand this off to our cheerleading coaches because we got one thing we're going to wrap it up with. So.
5, 6, 7, 8. Who rocks the house? The Comets rock the house, and when the Comets rock the house, they rock it all the way down. Who rocks the house? The Comets rock the house, and when the Comets rock the house, they rock it all the way down. Who rocks the house? The Comets rock the house, and when the Comets rock the house, they rock it all the way down. 1, 2, let's go, Comets, let's go.
To all of the parents in the room, we appreciate you being part of this program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, ladies. Good job. Good job, young man. Yeah. Appreciate you, ladies. No comments. No comments. Congratulations. Way to go, man.
Florida next year, guys.
Way to go, man. Next year, right?
Good to see you.
Way to go.
That's right. You keep winning, we'll build that case.
They gotta come to the champions. Good job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Don't leave them hanging.
Thank you, guys. No catamount. All right.
Thank you. Good job.
Good job, man.
Congratulations.
Good job. Great job.
Congratulations.
Great job.
Thank you
Great
for
job.
being here. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jalen. Appreciate it. Good job. Thank you.
Everybody suggested a bus to board.
They were fun. Have y'all been out there?
I've ridden by it. I've seen them a
I
lot.
made it out there 2 Saturdays. It was
Hey, John,
feel good again.
close it. They take it serious.
Yeah.
What they do in Florida.
Can they play 2 seasons?
Okay, Samantha, that's a hard act to follow.
Set up for failure. That was so cute. I loved
Quite
that.
far, but, this is Samantha Baker. She is Executive Director of the United Way of Randolph County, and she's gonna give us an annual report for the last, go ahead.
I'm ready. So thank you both so much. Thank you, Mayor Smith, City Council members, attendees both here and virtually. I'm grateful that I got to come to this meeting because that was incredible. So what a wonderful way to kick off our evening together. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present today. We are going to go over the 2023-2024 annual report. It is a little bit later than I usually would report this, but I am glad you've all given me a little bit of leeway as I only entered this position in July. And since I've only entered this position in July, let's take a minute to introduce me. I think that probably makes sense. My name is Samantha Baker, and I'm going to tell you a success story that takes place right here in Randolph County. Young woman grows up in Sophia, large family, supported by a single income. Like 42% of Randolph County, that made that family one paycheck away from crisis. That's one car accident, one sick child, one family member in need of caretaking, and now this family's stability is thrown into chaos. And like I said, that's the story of 42% of Randolph County residents as of 2022. As life unfolds, as it often does, she met a boy. That boy was part of the Randolph County foster care system. And so, being two very intelligent people, they were married at 18. First-time homeowners by 19, first-time parents at 19, and by the age of 21, she had continued the cycle of being one of those 42% one paycheck away from crisis and was a stay-at-home mother. At that time, her husband's mother came back into their lives and was in need of support. Biological mother was back in need of support, and how was this small family supposed to help them? She picked up her phone and she called Randolph County United Way, where she was directly given the referral number to 211. For those of you who may not know, 211 is a non-emergency resource line that connects individuals in need with partner agencies of United Way and other agencies that may be able to help them and support them to prevent that crisis from taking place. It was during this time that she learned about all of the different partner agencies to keep her mother-in-law afloat. We were able to connect her with CUOC and pay off some bills that she desperately needed to be able to move into a safe and secure home. Through our Randolph Senior Adults Association, her mother-in-law was connected with our CATS transportation system, as well as home-delivered meals. Those transportation was able to take her to Contegra, formerly Mercy Clinic, and now she was being medicated and able to continue on and move forward with a more stable life. She also learned about pre-K, which is a United Way funded program, and was able to get both of her children into the pre-K program here in Randolph County through the Partnership for Children. As her children went to school, she re-entered the workforce and worked for an employer who was a United Way supporter, and she became a United Way Caring Share donor. For those of you who don't know, Caring Share is 1 hour of your paycheck per month donated back to United Way services. She immediately signed up for that and used payroll deduction to be able to support United Way in that way. As her career continued and developed, she began working in the nonprofit sector, partnering with United Way as a United Way partner agency. Now she understood exactly how those dollars went to work in our county and in other areas to really support the mission and the vision of our partnered nonprofit agencies. She saw the critical way that funding was necessary to be able to support the residents of the town she loves so much. She pursued training and professional development, and today, the young woman who called United Way, was connected with 211, is now the young woman answering that phone. Woo, she did good. I did it though, I got all the way to the end. I'm proud to share my story, as it is, in my opinion, a success. But I am very proud today to be able to answer those phones and be at the helm of this ship moving forward into the future and being sure that our organization of the United Way continues to give back to the community that first gave to me. So, I would love to direct your attention to the annual report and talk a little bit about 23-24, and we're just going to hit some key highlights for those of you who are attending both here and virtually. You can access the full report on uwrandolph.org, which is our website. And I believe you all have it in your packet as well. And thanks to Canva, it's pretty. In 23-24, we were able to direct over $477,000 to partners and local programs, impacting over 51,000 individuals in countywide. These funds supported critical areas as youth opportunity, healthy community, financial stability, and emergency assistance. Our partners achieved remarkable milestones, such as providing over 100,000 meals through Randolph Senior Adults Association. They are on track to exceed even that this year. And by supporting more than 700 children to access summer camp experiences through the YMCA. Our corporate partnerships gave us many incentives. Last year, Post Consumer Brands hosted the $1 cereal sale as they have in the past, and we were able to bring in $10,000 in the 23 campaign year. This year, seeing the success as it has grown, we were able to bring in $12,500 for the 2024 campaign year. So we are very excited, and we were honored to host that event right here downtown in Bicentennial Park. And on page 9, if you will flip over there, I'd like to draw your attention to the highest grossing workplace campaigns. And if you will see, the city employees of Asheboro City are our #2 highest campaign. The city has shown not only in the works that you do, but in the employee structure and in the healthy corporate lifestyle that you promote, that you care about Asheboro's residents and Randolph County at large's residents through being our second highest workplace campaign. We appreciate that, and we can't thank you enough. Moving forward, our board of directors actively oversees operations, ensuring funds are responsibly managed. This past year, our independent audit confirmed our financial integrity, and our Form 990 is accessible online through GuideStar, but also accessible through our website as well. Your trust and that of the community are paramount, and we take our stewardship role very seriously. And I'm very proud to say that we have very clear, clean audits year over year. While we achieved a lot, we are not without our challenges. Looking forward nationwide, it's projected that charitable giving will be on a decreased trajectory over the next 5 years. We recognize that, and those projected challenges ahead, we have been thoughtful in how we proceed. To adapt, we're focusing on expanding our volunteer center. We are launching new programs, such as one called Pathway to Prosperity, which will focus on serving the underinsured and uninsured in our county, as well as bringing in new and impactful fundraising events to continue our sustainability moving forward. These efforts are designed to meet the evolving needs of our community and continue building a brighter future for Randolph County. Lastly, we are thrilled to share a quick update on our 2024 campaign. We are very close to our goal. Last year, we were able to direct over $400,000. We are hoping to raise a total of $600,000 this year, and we are 75% of the way there. So we are very excited about what we will be able to do in 2024-2025's campaign funding. Of course, should anyone be interested, because I'm going to do this, you can always make this vision a reality by supporting us online. It is always available to give or contacting us directly. In closing, I want to thank you for your ongoing support of United Way of Randolph County. Together, we're driving positive change and making our community stronger. We welcome continued collaboration and with the city to expand our reach and enhance our impact. If you have questions or ideas for partnership, I welcome them. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions?
And a lot of those recipients of United Way services live right here in Asheboro city limits.
It is over 50% that live countywide. Over 50% of our direct impact is within the city limits of Asheboro. Yes.
And those are young people.
I don't have exact demographics, but it's primarily senior adults and young families that we see the biggest impact. But we do have, and I'm sure you've heard this, our largest population in Randolph County is our senior adult population. And we're seeing year over year that increase happen. So we are focusing not only on young families to be sure that we continue to move forward, but we know the importance of taking care of those who have been serving Randolph County over the course of their lives. So we're focused on that as well. If that's all, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very impressive report. Well, make an editorial comment here, if you will allow me to do that. Traditionally, Asheboro was kind of so-so in the campaign business, for United Way. And when Mr. Ogburn came on board, being a firm believer in United Way, he got behind it. And the story we hear in most everything is it starts at the top. When Mr. Ogburn got behind it and got the right people, and
John's our team leader.
John's our team leader, and Kristen from public,
Jimmy
from
Cagle.
HR.
Jimmy
So,
Cagle, Tammy. Who else is on our team, John?
We have representatives from every department, so
Right.
it's got about 10 folks.
And our giving, the city's giving started going up when Mr. Ogburn got behind it, and being a believer, knew how important it was to our community. So, another one of his legacies, and we cannot allow that to fade away when he retires in 3 months. So, good job.
But who's counting?
Mayor,
But who's counting?
Mayor, Mayor. Just one personal comment that I'd like to make. Having gotten to know Ms. Baker over these last few years, we are very fortunate as a community to have her in this role, and I congratulate her on taking the role. We're very fortunate.
Thank you.
And it's a shame she doesn't have any enthusiasm.
I thought that was very tame.
We know you well.
All right, next I get to call on, our Main Street downtown manager, Eddie Corder, and she's gonna give us her annual report.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be with you all, especially in this new role as a city employee, continuing to take charge and lead our downtown program. I'm here tonight to give you the Asheboro Main Street Annual Impact Report for what we accomplished in fiscal year 23-24, and by George, it was a lot. Well, I'll blitz right past that page. So each year, as part of our responsibilities with our partnership with the state of North Carolina's Department of Commerce, we collect annual statistics on what we're seeing in the communities that we are working in as it relates to economic development, job creation, and overall energy towards the prosperity of our downtowns. So we'll start off with some statistics of just what we've seen in the past fiscal year. We saw $100,000 of public investment, and that was for some improvements to the City Hall parking lot as well as the City Hall building. But we saw $2.7 million of private investment downtown in the fiscal year. A large portion of that, of course, was Acme McCrary, but there was additional investments both with building renovations and building sales. We saw one facade improvement, and that was Lumina, so they did some work to improve the facade of their building and the side patio, and there were 2 building improvements, including Full Moon and the Rusty Rooster bar on Academy Street. We gained 7 net new businesses. It's really interesting. I keep thinking we're running out of space downtown, but spaces that were once one business, like the CUOC building, is now 3 separate businesses with room for more upstairs. And we're seeing more and more of those spaces become activated, and we're continuing to add new businesses to our downtown. I will note that this year has been incredibly difficult, especially from a retail perspective for our economy. That's a trend we've seen across the state. And in fact, I've even noticed a bit of a K-curve, if you will. So coffee shops and restaurants tend to been doing a little bit better, because I think if people are making decisions about how to spend their money, they can justify a meal or maybe a $10 coffee. But retail and some of our bar and nightlife establishments have struggled because those can be considered secondary expenses. You don't have to have the new shirt or maybe a drink with friends, but you do want to eat. So it's been a challenging year downtown for our businesses, but they have really persevered, and I'm hoping that as we enter 2025, things continue to loosen up for us. We've gained 46 new jobs downtown between full and part-time jobs. A big portion of that, again, comes from any new restaurants we've added, such as Full Moon. They typically have a lot of staff, and so that brings new opportunity and new investment into our downtown. And then we tracked 348 volunteer hours for downtown. So those are folks who are invested in the cause and who are helping us enact our different goals and objectives as a nonprofit organization that Downtown Asheboro is. And fun fact, the National Nonprofit Association values 1 hour of nonprofit service at $30. So that is where that $10,391 figure comes from. That was in-kind manpower, if you will, to make our dreams a reality through things like the summer concert series, different grant programs we initiate, and Zoo City Street Fest. To give you just a quick snapshot of our downtown from the aerial view, we have 20 blocks, 157 parcels, and 80 owners. A lot of people tend to think there's only like 4 property owners downtown, but that's not the case. We actually have a wide variety of property owners. We have 162 first floor storefronts, and this year we counted 156 residential units, and that includes a 40-unit addition with the Church Street Lofts, which fulfilled our goal of increasing residential units downtown by 25%, and we certainly are not done yet. We have 3 vacation rentals downtown right now, which are Airbnbs, and I think that's going to be a really interesting one to watch, especially with all the tourism and hospitality we have invested in here in Asheboro, both with the Sportsplex and then just with the growth we're seeing at the zoo. People want to stay downtown. People want to be downtown. So in addition to some hotel projects we have, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see more of our second-story spaces maybe being transitioned eventually into these Airbnb-type units. As far as restaurants and nightlife go, we have 7 bars and nightlife, 15 restaurants and bakery, and if you're a restaurant that serves alcohol, you landed in the restaurant bucket, 23 retail establishments, and then as of June, our vacancy rate was sitting around 6%. So we kind of had a bubble burst in about September, and quite a few businesses downtown turned over, but we are seeing those spaces slowly get filled again, and we're trickling back towards that 6%. So I spend a lot of time asking people questions, meandering around downtown and worming my way into conversations, but I think it's really helpful to know what we're seeing and to just track how we're growing and what our trends look like. So I'll be curious to see what our numbers look like next year. The next thing I want to briefly highlight is our program successes. People ask me what my job is all the time, and I say, well, it depends. And I think this page is a pretty good snapshot on why that is the case. So when I think about our 3 biggest program successes, I have to say by far the thing that I think Downtown Asheboro Incorporated is most proud of is the sale of Acme McCrary. That took a lot of love and work to get that deal to the finish line, and it's going to be so transformative for our downtown. We, of course, have a lot to work through, but it is going to be such an incredible addition to our downtown when it's completed. And we sold it at the 11th hour of the 11th day, and I'm just excited for what it will become. Also, I think our Zoo City Street Fest was an incredible way to celebrate 50 years of the North Carolina Zoo. That is an asset that we are so fortunate to have, and when I go to Main Street conferences, people often say, I know where Asheboro is because of the zoo. So adding our zoo artwork downtown and being more intentional with that partnerships, I think is a way to continue to flourish our downtown. And then the last thing that I think is a major program success for us this year was winning our first Main Street Award. We were one of 16 communities out of 72 to receive an award of distinction for projects downtown, and that was for the Church Street Lofts. And that will not be the last award we bring home. So very, very proud of those accomplishments. And I will note that we are an accredited Main Street community, which is the highest threshold that you can be. There's affiliate, there's general member, but if you're an accredited member, it means that all of your stakeholders are all in and you are doing the work. Your public partners, your private partners, your community, we're all in and we're doing the work. And I'm very proud that we have been accredited for 4 years, going on 5. The next thing I'll talk about is promotional initiatives. So we're doing a lot of work to get the word out about what's going on downtown and why you should be here. Our media reach, we rolled out a new website this year, and that's been a really incredible thing. We have filled all 50 states of people who have visited our website. I don't know how we ended up with someone from Alaska, but I'll take it. We have reached almost 300,000 users on Facebook. 22 on Instagram, and then our newsletter continues to increase. So we will continue to use all of our media outlets to let not only our residents and community members know what's going on, but also our regional partners, because Asheboro is a place worth visiting, and it's conveniently right in the middle of everything. The other thing I want to talk about is signature events. Events are an important part of the downtown culture and atmosphere. People often drive by and I'll get a phone call, I'll be somewhere else, and they're going, what's going on downtown? And we've really created a downtown with our venues like Bicentennial Park and Sunset Avenue that is a place people seek out. So the Department of Commerce has a partnership with a software called Placer AI, and it can track daily visitorship through cell phone data. It is all aggregated out, but they were generous to provide some visitation numbers for us with this data. So I think we all have gotten pretty good at guesstimating how many people we think are somewhere. But I think it was really interesting that their data pulled that for the Fall Festival, we had 22,000 daily visitors. So the day of the Fall Festival, that's about how many folks were downtown. That it is no coincidence that that's probably the biggest retail day for businesses downtown. For our Christmas parade, which is a convenient time to plug, tomorrow at 7 p.m. We have 13,000 daily visitors who visit downtown. That data gives us the pinpoint of the entire day, so there may not necessarily be 13,000 people at the parade, but I would bet there's at least 10. Christmas downtown, we had about 9,700 daily visitors. For Zoo City Street Fest that day, there were about 8,850 visitors. So for the duration of the event, there were not quite that many people there, but it doubled visitation across the day. An average day downtown is about 4,000 visitors on a Saturday. And then lastly, our summer concert series, which has really blossomed, brings around 22,000 visitors across the series. So their numbers are showing that we have 1.4 million visits downtown in a year, and that has continued to increase. So last year it was 1.3, the year before that 1.2, and I have no doubt that will just continue to soar. So our events are really important, and I'm grateful for all of our partners here at the city who can make those things happen. It's one of the things that I think makes our community so great. And the last thing, second to last thing I'll highlight is just some projects that we're working on, which I'm sure you all are very aware of, but we're getting close to wrapping up the first phase of our Trade Street project, which is the environmental site on Fayetteville Street, where we'll relocate some trash services, recycling, grease traps, things of that nature to help clean up some of the trash we have on Trade Street. We're also seeing, we're in the parking evaluation phase of the Acme McCrary project. So the developers who have purchased that building are currently reaching out and discussing with the railroad what their options are, whether it's a month-to-month lease or if there are long-term leasing options. And I think once they are able to identify what their parking count will be from the railroad, they'll be able to better discern what their next steps with that project will be. We're also going through the middle of a parking study right now with this revitalization we've seen downtown in the past 10 years, and buildings that were once one business that are now four. We've seen an increase in parking with our football players and cheerleaders here. Our parking lot back here was a little tight. So we're evaluating ways that we can really maximize the landscape that we have downtown, so that downtown can continue to be a place we activate, that people can gather easily and safely. And then the last thing is the Randolph Savings and Loan Hotel project. So I got word on Monday that Phase 2 application, which is an important piece of the Historic Tax Credit project, made it to the National Park Service. And we are hopeful, the National Park Service says they have 30 days to get back to us. So we are hopeful that by the end of the year, we will have received final say from the National Park Service, and that project can begin with renovations. They have completed demo and taking out anything that was not historically significant to the site or original. And so with that official approval from NPS, they will be able to start the second phase of reconstruction. And so I'll lead you with this program. I wholeheartedly believe in it. I think our downtown is so special, and it is the greatest joy of my job to see people all the time and connect and find ways that downtown is a place they just really want to be. And we're seeing this investment all across the state. This is the impact of the North Carolina Main Street. Since this program started in 1980, we've seen $5.5 billion of public and private investment in our downtowns. And we're just going to continue seeing more, because I think more and more people realize how special downtown districts are. So at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions. And thank you for all your support of our program.
Would you like to take a breath?
Nah.
That was well done.
Thank you, friend.
And you didn't have to stop and think about what you needed to say, and that was a awesome report. And I will take it one step further. We are so pleased to have you as a city employee now, working for us on behalf of downtown, and not just Main Street.
I was working for you before, just not on official capacity. I was always on your team.
Well, we understand that, and you've been one of our greatest hires.
Well, thank you.
Any questions?
Good to hire those Western Carolina people.
That's right, those catamounts are just something special.
You could have gone home, damn.
I could, but I couldn't. You knew I couldn't. But, no, she came to Kiwanis on Tuesday night and gave a Reader's Digest version of this. And the folks that were there, they were full of questions, like probably folks in the audience are, but they're not raising their hand to ask any question. I guess we're supposed to ask the questions, but they had lots and lots of questions because people in Asheboro, Randolph County are very interested in what's going on in our downtown. And to reiterate what the mayor said, we're very happy that you're here guiding this and leading us in this. You're doing an outstanding job.
Anybody?
Ditto.
Yeah, y'all know how I feel about Abby,
Yeah.
so I mean, we're incredibly fortunate.
I will get out of your hair. I will apologize, I'm not hanging out for the whole meeting, because I will be preparing for the parade tomorrow. But, yeah, that's it. Bring your snow bibs, it's gonna be cold. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good report.
I'm good.
Oh, the kids did.
We're so excited.
Yes.
Just above and beyond the Call of Duty right there.
Well, that first group was kind of that tall.
Mr. Nuttall, Assistant City Manager Trevor Nuttall, you're gonna give us a report on the financial award we were just notified of.
And we want it bright and cheery.
Yes,
and
sir.
enthusiastic.
Hopefully I won't fumble this after the prior presentation.
Bubbly.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, it's my pleasure to publicly announce that the city was successful and has recently been informed of our success in obtaining a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant award to go towards the David and Pauline Gerald Center City Garden. Many of you know that this is a funding source that we began pursuing about 2 years ago. And that just kind of shows you the complexity of and the multi-layers that oftentimes we're confronting as we go after project funds. This particular source is a federal program and pot of money through the Department of Interior that flows into the State Department of Natural and Cultural Resources and ultimately to the city and local governments if you are successful in obtaining it. And so that took 2 years to get through that process. The present amount is almost $300,000. And I say the present amount is because we are hopeful that we will be able to add elements to this grant now that we have successfully cleared the review to potentially, and I say potentially, receive some additional funding towards elements that are not funded in this initial award. So that's $300,000 that will require a dollar-to-dollar match from some source to access these funds. I've talked to you previously about our effort to work with the State Commerce Department in concert with federal HUD to allow us to reassign some remaining community development block grant funds towards this match. And that's kind of a complicated process that we have to go through as well. That process is underway. If we're successful, then $240,000 of that almost $300,000 required match for the Land and Water Conservation Fund will be met through non-city sources. So our fingers crossed, if we're successful to get the full amount of Land and Water Conservation Grant, we're talking about $60,000 of city funds, ultimately having $600,000 to initiate the project. You know that the estimate for the full build-out of the garden has remained at $1.4 million. I do want to say if this award is accepted, and I'll be asking you to take action this evening to accept this award, but I will explain that a little bit. We would not expect to move forward right away. We would say that this would be built in phases because of the total amount of the project that we expect to need, combined with what we believe we'll have within that first phase. And we would not initiate the project until we're certain on how we go about meeting that match requirement for this award. The good news is that this funding source, we've got 3 years to commence the project after we execute it. So we have some time to work through how do we compile the required matching funds. This is a reimbursable grant. That's important for the finance department in terms of managing how we will pay for the project and seek those reimbursements. The eligible funded components are the walkways or trails within the garden, the parking lot, the perimeter fencing, and should the council want to add a small restroom building to the project, it would cover that component of the project. What it doesn't cover are the plantings and some of the more decorative elements that we have designed within the project. Termination date is September 30th, 2027. So as I said, we've got some time to work through how to initiate the project. I am asking council to take action to accept the award this evening and to authorize Mayor Smith and other city officials to execute the necessary documents. That would be my motion. If you take that action at a future meeting, we would bring to you budget ordinances that would account for and appropriate both these funds and how we intend to provide the matching dollars for the project. So this would not, it's important for the public to know that this would not initiate the project, but it would be that first step to secure these funds, and we would come back to you as we figure out that mechanism to provide that match. So otherwise, the project's ready to go. We have all of the state and federal permits and approvals that we're required to have to begin. It's just a matter of continuing to work through finding the funding for the project. So that is my request here this evening is for the council to authorize acceptance of the award and authorize Mayor Smith to execute the documents.
Question.
We're real proud of you two as an employee, and you're a good hire. You've done an excellent
But now
job in finding money for us.
Yeah, you'll have to keep
not just
that
this,
up
but
for the
many
next
others.
7. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Heard the Wednesday night speech, so.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
slipping.
And this is just huge for this project.
It is, yes, it's very meaningful. Once we work through the matching element of this, we will have a significant first phase of construction that will lead to a project that won't be complete, but it'll be usable and it'll be something people can be proud of.
Exactly.
I assume you're gonna lay out all phases before you begin phase one, I mean, be defined.
Yes, that's actually a part of the 100% plans that we've developed. It is a recommended phasing for the project.
Okay, and estimates to go with each one of those?
I'm sorry?
Estimate to go with each one of those phases?
There's not an estimate for each one of the phases, but there is the overall, we have an idea of each component. And part of how I think we would phase it is based on how does that additional funding come in.
Okay.
But you will see that information as we identify how to provide that match.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we accept the grant award and authorize you and other city officials to execute the necessary documents as Mr. Nuttall has laid out with the CDBG funds, et cetera.
We have a motion, Councilwoman Heath. Do we have a second?
Second.
Who was the second?
Somebody down there.
Clark.
second him, but so did Eddie.
We'll split it.
Yeah.
We give it to Clark.
So it's four.
Mr. Bell was the second. Discussion. I would like to, just take a moment to, talk a little bit about the project and say that, this is not pie in the sky. This is something that in perpetuity should benefit all of Asheboro and Randolph County. They're not making any more green space, any more land, and this is a historic piece of property right in our downtown that will ultimately, when it's complete, be a huge asset to our community. It's, and I'm speaking this way because I was the one that came up with the idea to save the property and not build out apartments on it, you know, wall-to-wall apartments. And someday, if we let that happen, if we miss our opportunity and don't see the value in green space, someday somebody's gonna look down there and say, why in the world do we not try to save this? Or why are there 150 apartments on this 2.5, 3 acre piece of property? And it is an asset. It will be an asset. And I think it's a quality of life thing, and ultimately, people down the road, people will expect to see more green space and opportunities to enjoy nature in that type of setting. So I'm urging the council to get behind the project. It's been ranked on our capital needs list pretty far down the list, but I'd like for us to be cognizant of the fact that that may not be the right move. So, any comments? I will call for a vote. Those in favor of approving the motion to proceed, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Nuttall. I appreciate all your hard work in finding funding sources. And we've got others out there we're looking for. Okay, this is the appointed time during each meeting when we invite the public to speak to the council. It's our public comment period, and I would ask that anybody in the audience that would like to address the council at this point in time on any item of concern or city business, this is your opportunity. I would qualify that by saying if you are here for a zoning case and expect to hear that case come up a little bit later, that will be your opportunity to speak. If it directly involves a action on our agenda, then I would ask that you wait until the item comes up. Otherwise, if you speak, there's a sign-up sheet up there, I believe. And we'd ask that you print your name on the sign-up sheet, and the purpose of that is because when we transcribe the audio tape, we don't always know how to spell the name, don't always get them right. So, sir, introduce yourself and tell us what you like to say.
My name's Topaz Bott, and I was here a couple months ago and just trying to follow up on the dog park, to be honest.
The
dog park at the sports complex.
right, the grading's finished. Finished the plan. Mr. Sermon signed off on the plan.
We've got the fence man. Ms. Reeves and Mr. Sermon will complete the contract for the fenced installation, and then we'll open
Any time frame?
as soon as we can get the fence guy out there.
Okay. Well, thank you for,
We're closer than we have been. Mr. Ogburn gave me the drawing, the engineered drawing today, and I knew that if I didn't bring it in here tonight, I would miss an opportunity to share that with somebody, because this is one of the most asked questions of the mayor. Everybody in town wants the dog park finished. I understand that, and we've been talking about a dog park for a long time, and we've had one on the drawing board for a long time. It's just a matter of getting it done. So right now, we're at the fencing.
And that's all that's left to do.
awesome. Thank you very much.
Yes, so
You're welcome.
we have the bags, the benches, the equipment. The park will host a big dog section under 30 or 30, more than 30 or 35 pounds, a small dog section, then a relief section, which you can throw frisbees and
Nice.
toys and all that.
Looking forward to it.
My dog's been down there twice to watch youth sports, and twice she got loose, so my dog's looking for it too.
That is the runningest dog I've ever seen.
That's what a man needs that lives in the city, is a border collie.
Yeah.
And she thanks to Mr. Bell, we have it, because Mr. Bell rescued it.
Got her a good home.
I have a dog that likes to run off too, so I know what you mean.
Run.
I need those gates. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
And we'll have a set of rules too, so the users, there's a set of rules about how you maintain your dog, how you treat your dog. You can't just drop your dog off, it's not daycare, you can't drop your dog off and leave. You gotta be there.
Bring an aggressive dog.
Can't bring an aggressive dog,
Yeah.
right.
Right now, I'm going to Archdale more times a week than you'd want to count, so.
I've been up there too. Last time I had my little convertible out with my dog in it, when I turned left onto Bullitt Street, right there at Asheboro Dry Cleaners and Brewski's, my dog hopped out. So yes, I'm well aware. I keep asking these guys every day, please, just finish it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak to council tonight? Okay, now we've had quite a few items come up before we get to the real meat and potatoes of the agenda, but item 8, your consent agenda. Council, you all have in front of you the proposed consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that you would like to remove for individual discussion or consideration?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like just a little more information about item K, about, do we have some information about something being built there now, or is it just kind of hopes, or?
There's two things. It'll be coming back to the council, but there is a developer using on the old Ragsdale property beside the carpet place and down the hill from the Jeep place. And then all the way down to the, if we can get sewer down there, there'll be a substantial upsizing and additional sales volume of the John Deere and equipment sales. And that's our ultimate, it doesn't really help us to go any further east than that. You know, if you get to John Deere's pretty flat there, and then it just falls off all the way down the hill.
Yeah.
And it'd be really hard for us to pump it up that steep a hill. We really don't want to grow much. We really want to grow all the way out to the southern loop. And somewhere about the, I think we've settled now on where our existing meter is. Michael Roney's not here, but somewhere out. Oh, Michael is there. Michael, where do we intend to meter off to eastern?
At the end of the existing main.
Yeah, okay. Yep, so that's, so we'll have water out there and both the distribution water and, service water, and we'll have the sewer out there. Then we can come back to Presnell Street from that intersection back, and there's the available property in there too.
We can loop,
Okay, so that would
loop,
get Presnell Street into Presnell.
loop
Street.
around to the
Right.
pump station on Presnell Street.
And if you ever do decide to go any further, you can convert the pump station to a manhole and extend
Right.
the line further. And if the hydraulics work, in theory, you can pick up and move the pumps to the next location.
So we do anticipate that,
You're growing in steps without having to duplicate necessarily the cost. It seems like you are, but you aren't, because you convert it. you
and,
go down
and,
the
and
hill.
I would expect sometime in the first by April, or that you would know what's going on, that there would be an announcement about what's going on
Okay,
down there.
okay.
There's a significant need for hotels in our community. I think Mr.
James River's not a secret.
James River's not a secret.
And they're wanting to build double the size of that facility, and they're on septic now. The building has to go where septic field is.
And
So
we'll
that
get it
will
in.
also bring annexation in, so that will bring that inventory and all that facility into the city.
And then we'll fill in, that'll be the edge, and we'll fill back in from there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my problem is I really, the equipment that we're not building or putting in the wastewater plant, I have no idea what it does. So.
Yeah, yeah.
I assume that we're making the right judgment there about that,
Yeah, and we're moving, we pushed another project out, so we didn't have to hit the budget with this. We're just moving it from one account to the other. So the line at the bottom, the revenue doesn't have to be amended.
Cause this brings money in as well.
James
Yeah.
River asked us 2 years ago to look at extending that sewer down to their property so they could expand. And we've talked and studied it and looked at coming to that intersection and turning and going back to the pump
I can see,
station.
I see the need for it.
And,
Yeah.
and we're further down with the Ag Center now, is pushing development over the hill.
And there is a contract on the Ragsdale property.
But we're
Ours
doing
do it.
that and not doing something to a wastewater treatment plant that probably needs to be done. So making a judgment on that, I don't, like,
Yeah.
not knowing what exactly we're talking about,
Yeah.
how much we need the equipment at the wastewater treatment plant.
It'll come back.
All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burks and a second by Mr. Bell. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Evans,
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Council.
newly appointed Community Development Director.
Thank you, sir, and good evening, everyone. On the first request, this was for a quasi-judicial hearing for a special use permit for property located at 727 Jayco Caudle Drive. That is at the intersection of NC 49 South. And the request is for an off-premises sign, billboard, poster panel, as it's termed by the zoning ordinance, essentially a billboard at this location close to the 64 bypass. The applicant in this case has requested a continuance of this item until the January meeting agenda, and we would recommend approval of that continuance.
Do I have a motion to grant that continuance until the January meeting?
So move.
Does the,
Motion by Ms. Heath. I have a second. Second. Second, Mr. Swears. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 9B, a legislative hearing for case number RZ 24-22. Is an application to rezone property located at 1449 and 1453 Old Liberty Road. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, and I do have some larger copies of the site plan to distribute.
seniors appreciate this.
So this request is being made by Donna F. Hughes involving the two addresses, 1449 and 1453 Old Liberty Road. The request is to rezone from an R10, which is a medium-density residential, to an I1, which is a light industrial conditional zoning classification. There are 11 potential uses, so the conditional zoning would allow one of those at any time, as you'll see in the conditions that we'll go over. But the list of those potential uses in the I-1 district include a contractor's office, electronic and electrical repair, small, an exterminator's office, furniture refinishing and repair, an interior cleaning service, manufacturing, processing, and assembly, light only, motor vehicle repair, minor only, rental and sales of domestic vehicles, repair services, sign painting, and a warehouse. And there are two parcels involved in the request. The property is just over 1 1/3 of an acre. The former land use was a vacant boat repair and sale shop, and that was classified as repair services and retail shoppers goods by the zoning ordinance. So on the overview map, you'll see the property is directly in the center of the map. The two parcels are outlined in blue. This is along Old Liberty Road. It's close to the Deep River Bridge, as you'll see in the photos and the site plan. But the areas in yellow have residential zoning. There are a couple of parcels that have, or several parcels actually, that have commercial zoning that are either the darker red or the lighter red. And then across Old Liberty Road, there are multiple parcels that have an I-1 industrial classification without the conditional zoning that's being requested with this property. The rezoning map shows you the adjoining parcels, and also the subject parcels, which are A1 and A2. I will point out that the adjoining or abutting owners have been properly notified. If we go into the next map, you'll see in terms of topography, the land does drop off as you head toward the Deep River. There is water that runs to the site along Old Liberty Road. That is the blue line on the map. There is a city sewer main that is accessible to the property. That actually does come onto the southwestern edge of the property, where near where you'll see on the photos here, close to the driveway. So the aerial map shows you a view of the subject property. You see the proximity to the Deep River. You also see the industrial use across Old Liberty Road and some other residential uses in the area, as well as the commercial use near WOW Road and Gant Street. So this shows you a little bit more of a two-dimensional view of the two parcels. There is a structure, of course, on the property. You'll note on the left-hand side or the western side of the property, there is a shipping container that has been removed since this oblique photo was taken. Just did want to point that out. So this shows you a view of the subject property from Old Liberty Road. You can see the drive is paved into the property from Old Liberty Road, and then it becomes a gravel parking area. There is the structure with 2 bays for the garage. The structure is just over 3,000 square feet in area. There is also a dumpster that exists on the property. You'll see that as we get through some of the conditions about the screening of that dumpster. This shows you a little bit of a wider view of the subject property. This shows you the subject property from Old Liberty Road. So there is a guardrail on the part of the property at 1453 Old Liberty Road. There's quite a bit of vegetation. This is located within the right-of-way, and then the property does drop down as you go from the street. This is looking to the northeast on Old Liberty Road. So you're looking toward the Deep River on this photo. This is looking to the southwest on Old Liberty Road. The property would be off to your right, just back behind where the photo was taken. So you can see some residential use immediately beside the property, as well as industrial use across Old Liberty Road. So this is looking southwest. This is looking a little bit further back. And then on the site plan, you'll see, I'll get to the closer view here, the structure that exists on the property, the driveway coming into the property where it's asphalt and then gravel. The site plan shows parking for 8 vehicles that the applicant has indicated. Just going out there and looking at the property, staff believes that is a reasonable number of parking spaces that are available. The metal building also contains 2 garage bays for parking within the structure. And in terms of landscaping, the applicant proposes essentially leaving what is on the property with a crepe myrtle tree on the front of the property. There is, as you saw in the photo, a considerable amount of vegetation that is located along Old Liberty Road. It is within the right-of-way. We don't have reason to believe that that would be removed in the near to immediate future, though. So that does provide some landscaping. And the applicant is also proposing evergreen plantings that are 15 feet apart on the western side of the property. That is adjacent to the closest residential property. So that is providing some additional protection to that adjoining residential use with evergreen screening that if this were a general industrial district without the conditional zoning would not be required with any of those changes of use. So that is providing some additional protection to that owner. So just to cover, just to highlight a few items on the analysis that I haven't covered already. Of course, both of these properties are in the city limits. There is a significant amount of flood area on the property. So you see that on the site plan close to the river. It takes up close to half of the property. And so there are some restrictions as we get into the conditions that staff will be proposing that would not allow development in that area. So the row of evergreen trees that is proposed, those would be a minimum of 6 feet in height at the time that they're planting, no more than 15 feet apart. The applicant would need to, or owner would need to take care in making sure that those trees do not encroach into the sewer line. So we would be working with them through the permitting process to make sure that those are located away from that utility. The only deviation that we note here is in the front yard landscaping, where there would typically be 1 additional tree per 20 feet or 1 shrub per 10 linear feet along the street yard, which is about 240 linear feet. And so that's the only deviation that's being requested. But again, noting all the vegetation that's within the wider right-of-way, which was expanded due to the bridge reconstruction back in the early 2000s along the Deep River. So prior to that, the vegetation would have been on the private property. Also, it's worth noting that the applicant proposes limiting the hours of operation from 7 in the morning until 10 at night. That matches the hours. If you go from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., those are the quieter hours under the zoning ordinance as far as noise decibels. So we believe that that is a reasonable condition. So we've covered the parking, and so if this were in a general I-1 district, there would be, with those uses, likely no additional parking that would be required. Also, the parking could remain gravel if it were a conditional zoning district because it's an existing use, an existing situation, not a new use. So that's also something to point out. So in terms of looking at the specific goals and policies in the land development plan, this property is in a neighborhood residential designation. That's simply reflecting the R10 mapping of the property. It is in a primary growth area, and we have a total of 5 goals and policies that staff believes support the request. Only 2 that are less supportive of the request, just essentially the mapping of the property as residential and ideally having a transition between industrial to residential. We believe the buffer that's proposed, which would be in addition to what typically would be required, is helpful to addressing that particular goal and policy. So there on item A, you see the list of uses. I covered that in the beginning. We can certainly go over that in more detail if the council would like. But items B through E are typical requirements, just dealing with permitting that would need to be processed in terms of review. We would, with any of those uses, confer with NCDOT that they have no concern with the design of the driveway. And so you see those conditions. Item F deals with the buffer, that be installed. And then item I deals with the hours of operation. Item H specifically says that no development activity will be allowed in the flood hazard area. So that includes everything from new structures, impervious surface, which could include gravel, parking or storage or inventory of any materials. Item K, if there is some limited accessory open storage, that would need to be screened in compliance with the ordinance. So that would typically require an opaque fence of some sort. Item L was based on feedback from the planning board that would require that the dumpster that you saw in the photos, that be screened with a wooden, vinyl, or chain link fence that's consistent with our ordinance. That would need to be at least the height of the dumpster, whether it stays in the same place or it's relocated. Item M is the memorandum of land use. It's the standard document that's recorded with the zoning. So just to sum up staff's consistency statement, we believe that a new conditional zoning district for the property allows for a broader range of appropriate and historically similar uses. If we look at the history of the property, it increases protections for neighboring residences and environmentally sensitive areas. The conditions offered and accepted by the applicant can aid in achieving multiple environmental and land use goals of the land development plan, as well as goals related to the reuse of unused or underutilized existing developments to try to get some more economic activity into this property. The conditions also aid in reasonableness given the history and current development of the property. The general I-1 applied to multiple properties across Old Liberty Road, and benefit to the property owner provided by selectively broadening permitted land uses. It's not a blanket allowance of all I-1 uses. And the benefit to neighbors and the surrounding community provided by land use and operational restrictions and additional proposed landscaping. And so staff recommends approving the request. The planning board also reviewed the request. They concurred with staff reasoning, adding the condition regarding the dumpster. So I'll be happy to take any questions.
So John, with some of the uses that are potentially listed, this might not apply, like if it ends up being a contractor's office, but with some of these other potential uses, is there any concern with it being next to, or close to the deep river with any kind of runoff issues or anything like that?
Sure. So as far as our permitting process, depending on the specific use, we would be consulting with Water Resources, that department, if needed, the Department of Environmental Quality, just making sure if there's any permitting that's required from them. So that would, through the condition, so that would be covered in item D. So we talk about NCDOT, but there could be other permitting. So it's very use specific. I hope that answers.
Yes.
John, you got some zoning history right here that the property is currently shown in zoning map as R10, and it says which is likely an era.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So we do have, there was a rezoning of the property that we found on file from '84 for the boat repair and sales office. Through multiple staff going through and looking at records, we were not able to find any rezoning back to R10. So we believe that would also clean that up.
Okay. That can happen, can't it, Trevor?
It's been known to happen.
All the way back to paper days.
Any other questions? Council, what are your wishes? Oh, I'm sorry. This is a public hearing. I didn't, trying my best.
No, not anymore.
Is anyone in the room that wants to speak to this request? I am sorry, I forgot all about
That's okay, though. Do I need to sign this thing? I need a pen if I do.
No.
No? You think you got my name figured out? So,
John had so many details and all, he put me to sleep.
Mr. Mayor, city manager, council members, thanks for your time and attention. Let me give you a little bit of background here to help you out a little bit. This property was built, and I think there was conditional use plan, because they certainly have a site plan, when Mr. Hughes, when he was living, and he constructed a very successful boat repair and parts sales operation here, i.e. the retail sales part of it, because he did sell some parts. Unfortunately, he passed away, and his widow, who's with us tonight, Mrs. Hughes, has this property now and came to us to market the property. Well, there just aren't much demand for boat repair areas today, guys, and it was never used they never used the river here to drop the boats and that kind of thing, to the best of my knowledge. And if you look at that site plan pretty closely, this property doesn't go all the way to the river. The last parcel is owned by the industry across the road, across Old Liberty Road. So we looked at it, and I know you guys are surprised that I'm here on conditional use, special use, but we didn't think that there was a classification in its entirety that made sense for the property. Back to your question, Kelly, about properly contaminating the river or whatever. So we went to council, to staff, and asked for their advice. And we looked at this and think that they did a great job in trying to help us come about with some uses that would make sense for the use of the property and not be so impactful. One thing is also mentioned about the residents. There's only 2 residential properties that touch it. One is immediately to the west, and they're very friendly with Ms. Hughes, the owner. She is the other owner that touches the property. So she has a vested interest in wanting to make sure that this is less impactful. I don't think she has any plans on selling her property, but at the same time, it needs to be utilized for the property, for the city, for revenue and commerce. So hopefully we have put together, with the help of staff, some uses that make sense for the property so we can utilize the property without being too impactful and invasive here. Any questions? It's against my nature to do conditional use, but hey. I'd like to reserve some time if somebody does have some questions. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the room that would like to address council on this request? And I apologize, HR. That, I know you probably don't believe it, but that was not intentional. Well, then we'll move to the
I don't guess we did ask specifically, HR. John alluded to it, that it was amenable to the applicant in his presentation, but we'll ask you specifically if the proposed conditions.
The conditions, and Mrs. Hughes is here, we're okay with the conditions. We need to find the user, and then we'll negotiate whether they put those trees in or whether she does, but at this point, there's no change in use. As far as the dumpster, it's being taken away now. So if one comes back, it'll have to meet the code and regulation, of course, that's already in place. Thank you.
likely it wouldn't be put right up by the road anyway. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
You have a right to speak.
Well, I just want to say that's already been taken care of.
It's already gone.
Speak to the microphone.
Yeah, she's a lot more charming than I am, though. She's gonna maybe a little. Donnie might have signed that together.
I think I found one. Hello, everyone. My first time up here, so pardon me if I say something I shouldn't, or whatever. Anyway, the dumpster will be taken care of. It is a rental. I can get rid of it. I just use it for my own personal uses right now. And as far as the trees goes, I've already talked to someone about putting them in 6 foot high, 15 feet apart. So that's taken care of too. So I've done my part. So that's all I have to say. And it's also a 4-bay garage.
I would just make a comment, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
that if you've already talked to somebody about putting it in,
Mhm.
they might need to talk to zoning about not encroaching on the
Sewer.
sewer line. So-
Oh, I'm gonna take care of that
Okay,
too.
just as a cautionary.
Believe
tale.
me, I don't wanna have to go in there and fix that too. So, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else
Any other question?
for me?
No, thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. As anxious as I am to get moving here, they told me it's gonna be a short meeting, and I took them at their word. I will, ask council what their wishes are.
Mayor, based on a consistency statement provided by staff, I move we approve the consistency statement as well as the conditional zoning request, subject to the conditions set forth in the presentation amenable to the applicant.
We have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Heath. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. You're good to go. I'm not asking you to go.
Happy marketing.
Okay, and I'll open a hearing for item 9C, which is case number RZ 24-23. And it's an application to rezone property located at 305 Old Liberty Road.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. So this request is being made by the Innovision Group, by Jeffrey B. Davis, who represents that entity. And so the property is currently split zone between B2 and R10. The request is to rezone the property to R10, medium-density residential entirely. There's one parcel number that's part of the request. The property is about 4/10 of an acre of undeveloped property. So the subject property is located along Old Liberty Road. It's just to the north of the East Beasley Street intersection. And so you can see in the area along Old Liberty Road, the yellow shaded areas are residential R10 properties. The red areas are commercial properties as you go further to the southwest on Old Liberty Road, and also on North Fayetteville Street in this area. The subject parcel is parcel A, so the red area, which includes the frontage of the property, and about 3/4 of the property is B2 in the red area. The yellow, which comes up to a point at Roseboro Drive, there's no access there. It just kind of reaches that point. That is the R10 portion of the property. And also, you see the adjoining parcels. We did also properly advertise, post a sign on the property, and send notices to the adjoining owners. So in terms of topography of the property, nothing very unusual here. It's a little bit more level toward Old Liberty Road. There is city water that is the blue line along both Roseboro and Old Liberty, as well as the city sewer. That's the green line on both street frontages. So the aerial map shows you much of the area to the north east is residential in nature. The area to the southwest and west commercial. So you see on the oblique map, most of the properties around it are residential uses in each direction. So this is a photo of the subject property from Old Liberty Road. It's the vacant area in between those two dwellings. This shows you another angle of the property from Old Liberty Road. This is if you're looking southwest on Old Liberty Road. Beasley Street is the street to the right. There is some commercial use in that direction, but primarily residential here. This is looking to the northeast on Old Liberty Road. This shows you kind of where that point is on Roseboro Drive. So you see this area is residential in nature, single family primarily, and some two-family development. The property is in the city limits. Old Liberty Road is a state-maintained minor thoroughfare, we talked about the split zoning. We have the descriptions of of both of those there. There was previously a manufactured home on the property that was a legal non-conforming use that has since been removed. That actually was removed through a consent agreement with the property owner and the city due to the condition of the property. The B2 district allows the widest range of commercial uses. The primary use in R10 is a single-family dwelling or a two-family dwelling. And this property does have enough acreage for a two-family dwelling or a single-family dwelling. So the land development plan map designates the property for commercial use. It is in the northeastern planning area and in the primary growth area. 5 goals and policies are supportive of the request. Only one that's negative is just the compliance with the land development plan map, which is commercial. Overall, we do believe that the request is consistent with the land development plan. Despite the commercial designation, the R10 is consistent with the contiguous residential properties. Rezoning it from the more permissive B2 with the wide range of commercial zoning to an R10, which is for single family or a two-family dwelling, we believe is presenting much less potential for conflict with those adjoining land uses, particularly the residential uses in the area. So staff's overall recommendation is to approve the request. The planning board reviewed this as well. They concurred with staff also recommending approval. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Question? Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone in the room that would like to address the council on this request? Come on up, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, sir. John goes into great detail, right? And so if there are questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. I believe he has spoken to really every aspect of this, going like the other direction from the previous request that we reviewed. So it's our hope that we can put a couple of homes here, a two-family dwelling structure, and provide some starting price point housing in that area of the city.
Any questions of Mr. Davis?
Thank you for the time.
Anyone else who would like to speak to council on this request? Well, moving to the deliberative phase, I'll ask council what their thoughts are.
Mayor, based on the consistency statement provided by staff, I move we approve the consistency statement and the rezoning request.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Or was a second?
Either Eddie or I, one of the two.
Joey.
Okay.
Mr. Crosby. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thanks, sir. Good luck. We certainly need more housing. Mr. Leonard, come on down. 10A is petition received from Van Cannon Fraser LLC requesting the satellite annexation of a parcel on Hub Morris Road.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a portion of property at 801 Hub Morris Road and containing a total of 44.5 12.147 acres, not 14, as shown on the screen. You have in your packets a resolution prepared by the city attorney that directs the city clerk to take the required actions, and staff recommends adoption of this resolution by reference.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution by reference.
So moved.
I believe that was Mr. Burks.
That was, I believe
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Moffett. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution directing the city clerk to investigate the petition is approved. And take another action.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In anticipation of your action, the city clerk has prepared a certification of sufficiency of the petition. In light of this certification, you have in front of you a resolution prepared by the city attorney setting the public hearing date for January 9th, 2025 city council meeting on the question of the requested annexation, and staff recommends adoption of this resolution by reference.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to adopt this resolution by reference.
Mayor, I move we adopt this resolution by reference.
Have a motion by Mrs. Heath. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Bell. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So, at the January meeting, we'll be having a public hearing on the question of annexation. Okay, Mr. Leonard, 10B is an airport authority recommendation for the city council to take the action necessary to lease space at the regional airport for the construction of a new hangar.
Yes, sir. At the regular meeting, the Asheboro Airport Authority on October 15th of 2024, the authority instructed staff to investigate the construction of a new 80 by 80 hangar by John Dirksen at the airport. And at a special meeting of the Asheboro Airport Authority on November 27th, 2024, the authority voted to recommend to City Council to proceed with coordination of the terms and conditions of the lease agreement as specified in your packets. This will be for the lease of a 95 by 95 area, 95 foot by 95 foot area, directly adjacent to the newly constructed corporate hangar. As shown on Hangar P, or it is Hangar P on your Schedule C in your packets. The 95 by 95 allows for access to the sides and the rear of the hangar for sidewalks, HVAC, et cetera. And this comes from the Airport Authority in the form of a recommendation to direct staff to prepare the required public notices and schedule the lease agreement for the January 9th, 2025 City Council meeting.
And then this will, if the council approves it to move forward, this acts as the first reading for the lease agreement, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Just to review a couple of the terms that I think, this is the first time we've done one of these since about 2007.
That's correct.
And that was a version of a 1990s agreement. There's a couple of new things. I think the primary new thing, I just wanted to point out, I think the hangar's 80 by 80.
Yes.
And typically, the old method had the footprint was the same as the building, which didn't allow for your mechanical items, heating and air conditioning, whatever they may well put on there. So I think this is an improvement to that the leaseholder is who's on whose land. So I think that's I know staff has worked on this to get it honed and has done quite a bit. And it's my understanding we do have a shortage of hangars.
Yes, sir.
Out there. So but thank you for that. And I think this looks nice, and we're
Thanks, sir.
delighted to have not only the building that is sitting there, but the one jet and the one prop plane that will go in there is sitting there as well.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you, sir.
Hold on before you go. Go ahead.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yes, sir. To accept the recommendation, direct staff to prepare the lease and advertise it for the January meeting.
So
Okay.
moved.
So moved.
So moved, that's pretty specific.
All right, Mr. Moffett made the motion. Second? Oh, I'm sorry.
I did, I'm
I
sorry.
was talking and didn't hear you. Mr. Bell is the second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So in January, Mr. Sugg will have the proposed lease for our review and possibly, it's gotta have 2 readings, and this is the first?
This first, it'll be on for final action at January.
Okay, great.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on, I did have one other item that relates to this subject matter I was wanting to inquire about, if that's permissible. And going back to our comment about the demand for hangar spaces, we've discussed that quite a bit here over several months in comparing with our peer airports, Sanford, Siler City, Davidson County, Rowan County, that sort of thing. I think it's important to note one of the, I think the mayor's favorite stories, and it's one of my favorites of his analogies and stories about the jet airplane sends no one to school, calls 911 0 times, and pays as much property taxes to
21
our
homes
neighborhoods.
in my neighborhood.
Yeah, and I bring all that to a point, so the terms and conditions of these lease agreements, and council, this is question and statement, please correct yourself. They're conditioned upon an airplane being in the hangar. Because one of the incentives for the council, or the city to provide this scenario is that tax base. I mean, because we're not in the $900 a year land rental warehouse business.
Warehouse business, yeah.
So, so I would like to know, because I know the answer is not 0. I do not know the answer, the number. There are hangars out there that have, for substantial time, had no airplane in them. And we have a demand for airplanes that provide a lot of tax base. I mean, this man, he had a Mustang, he's got a Citation now. These are multi-million-dollar airplanes. And so it's not in our best interest to have empty hangars or lawnmowers sitting in them for $900 a year. So would it be appropriate, Mr. Sugg, for us to request for Mr. Leonard to get with the Cardinal Air and Airport Authority to do an inventory of such?
It would always be appropriate for you as the council to ask that, and also for us to evaluate to make sure there aren't some legacy lease provisions out there that may or may not be as restrictive as what you're talking about. That's what we have to
But it's
examine.
also, if I'm not mistaken, a FAA requirement for this type of lease to have that consideration. So it's a federal law as well as a city ordinance.
That's correct.
So I just think, that, like I say, given the shortages, are we getting what we're supposed to get?
It is an appropriate inquiry that you've made.
So
Why don't we, if you can add to that, we may, see if we can put together an inventory of out there and what just the value is.
Yeah.
So we got 28 planes out there and they're worth X and that produces Y amount of
And if we
revenue.
got 33 hangars, we need to have a chat.
Exactly.
Well, we need to know where they are. I mean,
We need to know that, but why don't we produce
Tad's
for
got
you?
3 airplanes in his hangar, so
Yeah,
it's
but,
still.
yeah, but we'll produce for you too, what's the value of the existing
Yeah.
planes out there.
So-
That way you can put a monetary value on the asset too.
We'll
or a
know the
revenue
asset,
value.
we'll know what's empty, we'll know who's in compliance
And
and
if
who's
we've
not.
got empty hangars, we need to address that.
And we need to be, because if we go in for terminal money, we need to be in full compliance.
Evaluating compliance is always an appropriate thing to do.
Out of compliance is
Okay.
rarely a
Great. Thank you, Mr. Moffett. Good point. Mr. Nuttall. Item 11.
sure they keep
Thank you, Mayor.
out there, but they don't care.
Consistent with the city council's policy for board appointments, and per the direction you provided the city's planning board, that board has reviewed eligible applications that have been submitted for service on the city planning board. And in your packets are the applications of Mr. Taylor Trogdon Jr. and Mr. Wayne Moore. An appointment to that planning board is necessary due to the decision of Mr. Richie Buffkin to not seek reappointment to a new 5-year term, and his term does expire at the end of this calendar year. The staff requests the council to make an appointment of one of these two individuals that have been presented to you for consideration by the planning board for a 5-year term that would begin January 1, and that would require a motion of the council. I will say on a separate but related note, the Board of County Commissioners have appointed Mr. Jacob Wilburn to one of the two extraterritorial jurisdiction seats on that board. That occurred this past Monday. So with the council's appointment here this evening, that planning board will be fully seated. I do want to just publicly express our gratitude to both Mr. Buffkin and to Mr. David Henderson, who Mr. Wilburn will be assuming that seat. Both of those individuals have provided more than 10 years of dedicated service to the city, so we do want to publicly thank them. But the matter is with you now, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I would ask at this point that while it is not absolutely necessary, Mr. Trogdon, would you like to be recused from this discussion?
Yes, I would. And I would like, I appreciate you saying that by all legalities and everything, I'm certainly in my right to vote, but to avoid any appearance of impropriety or any favoritism or anything like that, I would like to be recused from this.
I'll entertain.
But I would like to say one thing else, Mayor, that he was asking long before I ever decided to run for council, so.
All right.
Mayor, I move that we recuse Mr. Trogdon from the discussion of this item.
From this one discussion. Yeah. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Heath. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Mr. Trogdon, you are recused from item 11, discussion.
Just one question, Mayor. Do we retain these applications for further consideration for the
Yes, sir, we do.
candidate that is not?
Yes, sir.
We keep them on file.
We do keep them on file. Yes, sir.
Mayor, I move we appoint Taylor Trogdon Jr. He has expressed an interest some 3-4 years ago in this item, and we retain Mr. Moore's application for further consideration should there be any future vacancy.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Moffett. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And you will notify Mr. Trogdon.
I think you just notified.
Duly notified.
Is he in the room?
He's in the back.
I'm sorry,
There he is.
Somebody notify Mr. Trogdon.
He's over there hiding behind that Brit.
somebody gonna have to
Forward,
wake
young man.
me up here in a minute. I've been asleep for the last half hour, it appears. All right, Mr. Sugg, I think you have a proposed, proposed revision to the lease agreement with Zookeeper Baseball.
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor. Pursuant to the council's direction, I'll wait.
Open the doors. Sorry.
No problem. Pursuant to the council's direction at the last meeting, I reviewed the comments that were written in the margins of the previously approved lease and tried to address them. You do have copies there, and as a logistical note, I will highlight that, using the term advisedly, You'll see yellow highlighting in the lease agreement itself, the 14 pages, and with strike-throughs and underlines. You will not see any highlighting on the grant of a right of first refusal. There are a lot of changes there, but it's to the point of, in the days when I joke with people about studying, it defeats the purpose if you highlight the entire book that you're reading. So since there's such change in that section, there is no highlighting because it would distract, and we will talk about that in greater detail. First, and I always stand to be corrected, but the impression I got from reading the notes was, first, there needed to be clarification of what the city's intent is with the particular venue. And that takes its form both in the recitals and in the scheduling provision that you get into. So within the recitals and also within the scheduling, there's a concerted effort to make it clear that the city does recognize that the reference to ancillary events, in addition to the baseball season for the zookeepers, that you need those ancillary events throughout the year in order to make it an economically viable operation. So that is recognized within the lease more explicitly now than it was before. And I'll be happy to go through on specific examples with that. The other note that came up was there's clarification with the revisions that the lease serves as an authorization outside of the manual. And when I say the manual, I'm referring to the policy manual for the Recreation Services Division, or department, that you've got to have authorization to be in the facility. You can get that either through complying with the provisions, there's a schedule of fees and going through individual requirements to use the venue in the manual, or, and like I said, that policy manual recognizes this, or you can have a lease. This grants the lease, if approved and signed by all parties, for the zookeepers to use the facility. Where the confusion is coming from, and their attempt is to clarify with the drafting, is that, and there will be an amendment if you tell me to go forward with this at the January meeting to the policy manual to clearly express where American Legion stands and where the high school baseball team stands. They only get, with the revisions, it makes it clear they're only being brought into the discussion in this lease agreement to give guidance to the Recreation Services Director about the scheduling framework for making sure that conflicts, if they arise, are resolved. For example, it makes provision in here that it's not always going to happen, but if the high school team makes the playoffs and enough scenarios work out, you could have some overlap between that playoff time period and the season for the zookeepers. Likewise, you're going to have American Legion games happening during that one time period that's specified in section 1.03, where it talks about during the period of May 1 through August 15 of each year, the highest scheduling priority is given to the zookeepers. But it makes note, the American Legion and the high school baseball team, because it is a publicly owned facility, the city's making it available for broad programming purposes, that if that overlap happens, the Recreation Services Director is charged with resolving that conflict so that the zookeepers have their season, they are allowed to function as they must function to survive, and at the same time provide the venue for those other worthwhile programs in the eyes of the city. Outside of that highest priority time period for the zookeepers, section 1.04 talks about the ancillary events. And it just uses it does not try to list everyone because you want people to succeed. They could find other events. But it lists examples of what would be the types of ancillary baseball events. The Asheboro Zookeepers Fall Baseball League, the Zookeepers Classic High School Baseball Tournament, and the Zookeepers Youth Baseball Camps. Not exclusive listing, but an example of where they are authorized to use the facility outside of that primary time period, and giving guidance to the Recreation Services Director that due regard is to be given to the fact they need those events to be economically viable. At the same time, when something comes up, it still is been designated as the responsibility of the Recreation Services Director to resolve scheduling conflicts in the best interest of the city. but it lays out all the factors, including helping the zookeepers for doing that. The term was another thing where there was a note, and that's made easier to address simply because of the timing of this, is that it was a July 1 date, which lined up with our fiscal year. Since it's coming up now, it's been, the revision as proposed makes it a January 1, 2025 commencement date for the 10-year lease. There is no change on the rental amount. And then when I get over to section 3.03, that's where you get into the grant of the right of first refusal. The notes in there, and here again, I stand to be corrected, but the very short summary is that from the notes that I read, it needed to be one or the other. It was a grant of first opportunity to negotiate, grant of first right of refusal. This makes it clear we're only talking about a right of first refusal. Now, in this language that is added, and you'll notice it going back over and skipping to Article 14, which talks about termination in event of default. In order to make sure that it does have some teeth to it, it classifies, every other default has a is curable, has a 30-day event. In the event things go wrong, which no one anticipates that, but part of the leasing agreement is to try to anticipate the unexpected, is that if something goes wrong and there's a breach of that grant of the first right of first refusal, that terminates the lease. It's non-curable. The city can take immediate action to re-enter the premises and retake possession of the park if there's a violation. That leads me to, and I will jump over and I'll be happy to go back and answer anything anyone wants to, but I'll go over to Exhibit 1, which, according to the terms, will be executed on the same date as the execution of the lease agreement and is integrated into it. There is a provision that I want to specifically highlight because I could be way off base in what you want done. Section 1.01 in Exhibit 1. So if you go to Exhibit 1, you'll see, and I used the definition section to get at this. Section 1.01 talks about the definition of transfer and triggering the need. If there's a decision to convey and to accept the offer, that transfer will trigger the rights to where notice needs to be given to the city. The city gets a copy of what that third-party offer is. The city then has the defined time period in here to either accept it or not. Also, if the offer is not viewed to be a complete sales contract, you have a finalization period which tacks on 30 days for a good faith effort to fill out the final transaction. But in defining transfer, the idea is don't unnecessarily turn this into a complex bureaucratic process. And you'll notice under that 1.01, it's subsection A, and then it goes to subsection D at the top of page 2. That's designed where it's real easy for you to tell me to delete it if I'm off base on this. Subsection B says, and I promise it's the only time I'm going to read, unless you ask me to, specific terms. Notwithstanding the foregoing, talking about defining the transfer that triggers a right, a transfer does not include a change of ownership or control of the above-referenced baseball team that includes a legally binding obligation for any transferee or transferees to maintain the use of McCrary Park as the team's home ballpark for the duration of the lease agreement executed of even date herewith. The intention is because elsewhere, transfer is designed as either being a single transaction or a series of transactions over a period of time that results in the transfer. In order to avoid getting pulled into that, if you don't want to, and me speculating that truly what the goal is to make sure that that ballpark is used as the venue, as the home team for the baseball team for the entire duration of the lease, that if they go to the trouble to do what you want done and put a legally binding obligation in whatever the transfer is, that they're going to continue to use the ballpark throughout the duration of the lease, that does not, by definition, qualify as a transfer that invokes the whole back and forth over the right of first refusal. That's the point of that. That certainly can be deleted if you don't like it. I just throw that as an option. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I think that was the intent, that we wanted the right of first refusal if they were gonna sell the franchise, and then it was gonna be moved. And we wanted the right of first refusal so that we keep it here.
Yes.
That was my recollection of
That's correct.
our discussions.
That's
And-
correct.
And then, at least in terms of the term, I think the concern there was, the lease term would be mid-season,
Correct.
mid-baseball season. And I understand it started out as our fiscal year.
Correct.
So I think the January 1 or whatever period of time, as long as it's not mid-season or during the season, makes sense.
And it does make a provision in there that recognizing it cannot be signed until after January 1. It makes provision that the first payment is just due whenever it's signed, then it gets it back onto that January 1 schedule.
Jeff, on the, excuse me, on the insurance,
Yes, sir.
I did not see anywhere it says that the city has added as additionally insured on their policy, or am I missing it?
We do not necessarily do that in policies, and I'll tell you why. And it certainly can be changed to do that. The city, and it always gets questionable on whether or not you're talking about a governmental function or a proprietary function. Recreation services, though, is laid out as a statutory provision of what the municipality does. We try to be careful in not always asking to be named as an additional insured. There are some things we do. But we try, if there's any possibility of an argument that's a governmental function that the city was engaged in at the time, such as the provision of recreation services pursuant to the statutory authorization, that when you buy insurance, you have waived governmental immunity. Our policies, to give you just as an example, we don't have standard insurance. We're part of a risk pool. The risk pool has provisions where specifically tailored to, only governmental units are a member of this risk pool, specifically tailored to say, I'm just using a separate example, so I'm not talking about the zookeepers or anybody, in building inspections. That agreement with the risk pool, the contractual agreement, makes it clear that they will pay defense, but they specifically decline to cover anything related to damages. So that, and we have used the argument in the past and succeeded, that if you try filing litigation against the city, it still has its governmental immunity because it didn't waive it by buying insurance. If you get named as an additional insured, there is a concern, which is why we tend to use indemnification agreements, which there is an indemnification agreement, a hold harmless provision in here, and they are required to get their insurance. But to have them get their insurance and not get the city pulled into whether or not we're part of that policy and get held to those standards on doing it. And then we have our own separate, for example, we have our own separate through the risk pool, our own liquor liability policy and other liability policies that we carry that keep in mind our governmental immunity concerns.
Well, and I understand that. My concern, well, we're renting that. You know what I'm saying? It is our facility, but they're leasing that facility, which it becomes their facility during the course of the baseball season, correct?
That is correct.
And if somebody trips and falls over there and gets hurt, and a lawsuit comes, they'll sue. I mean, I would assume that the zookeepers would be sued, the city would be sued.
Oh, everybody gets sued.
Yeah,
There's
everybody that could be sued will be sued. Okay.
Everybody will be sued. It just gets into whether or not we feel more comfortable in our ability to defend that suit and shut it down quickly.
I defer to you on that. I know that we do that a lot. A lot of the owners do that. If somebody working in the building on a building, it happens, something happens, and the owner gets drug into it, they're on our insurance as additionally insured to protect them, and they don't take and I'm just trying to protect the city's position so that we don't get drug into court, even though maybe it's dismissed and we're not held liable, we can prove it, we still have costs associated with that.
And that's a very valid point, but it also dovetails exactly why the city strives so hard not to intermingle our forces working at the time the renter is taking any activity. And we use a similar approach throughout the recreation services system on that. We want to stay separate. We'll come in and check over public safety, but the city forces are not getting involved in doing it, so it makes it easier, a clearer case that you're dealing entirely with the renter and the city still, and unlike other owners, they're not the government. So there's a subtle difference between sovereign immunity, which the state has, the city has governmental immunity. Like I said, there's some differences. But basically, it goes back to the old idea, you can't sue the king in the king's courts. That is where the city is unique from those other governmental units. And that's the only theory, and I can change it and add it. I am in no way trying to fight on that, but that's an explanation.
I'm just asking.
No.
Charlie, you go broke, we all had immunity.
It gets chipped away, and there are a lot of arguments. It doesn't take much for us to lose it, but it's always in our back of our mind.
Well, I was just trying to make sure we were ultimately protected as much as we possibly could be.
Oh, you're absolutely right, and it's an extremely valid risk management decision. It's just, I've just articulated where the city has tended to fall on that. There's absolutely no reason that I can't change it and take a different approach on this, but
But we
that's
do require them to have insurance and indemnify us
correct.
And it does make it cleaner that when our insurance, we've not given up our immunity to, our defense is gonna be we're immune.
Yeah. And it's just simply because the people we deal with, the risk pool, are very attuned to the governmental
They
immunity.
specialize in what we do.
That's all they do. And so we tend to say that. But we do have the insurance provision where they're required to carry insurance, and they are required to hold us harmless as a municipal corporation. So all purely discretionary calls, all just a matter of risk appetite and how you want to try to handle it. And I'm more than happy to make any changes if that's what the pleasure is.
Kinda like if you sue the state, I think the limit there is $1 million limit recovery. It don't matter what you did, it don't matter what they did. That's all you can get.
If you win. If you win.
Yeah, if you get down to win.
What, if, I think you answered it. I was gonna answer it a different way, but you answered it.
That playground over there, of course, the management, the corporate, the zookeeper management, they're in control of the playground too while the ball games are going on, right?
Yep.
They're responsible for it. I mean, it's a wonderful thing and the kids love it, but, the parents leave them there and look at the ball game and man, they get really wild. In fact, I looked up a zookeeper management person and told them they need to get over there because the kids were just going wild. And I was afraid one was gonna get hurt. So that really could happen there.
You're making, all of you are making great points, and you can see how it all fits together. The city goes out of its way in these agreements to try to draw a clear line and keep city forces out of making operational decisions while someone else is actually utilizing and controlling the activities at the facility.
They're quiet enjoyment.
Quiet enjoyment.
Correct.
We need to have his business.
Correct. It serves a lot of purposes for us.
So, one other question.
Yes, sir.
By doing this and making it activated on January, the 1st of January, there is no money from last summer?
This is not,
I mean, we just gave it to them for the summer?
this is entirely geared, the straight answer to your question is no. It's entirely geared to the term, the upcoming term of 10 years, with year one being as specified in here.
Have we presented this to them yet?
I have not.
Okay, so this is going to them for let them
well,
decide what they're going to do.
What I'm going to ask tonight, and Mr. Mayor, I'll be sure and correct me if I'm wrong, it can be shared with them, and certainly at any time, it's public record now. But tonight, if you're comfortable, I'm trying to make sure I understand exactly what my client wants drafted in here. If you're comfortable with what is drafted, I will clean it up, and I'll ask you to authorize me to finalize it in form, and also ask you to authorize the publication of the required legal notice so that it can come back up for final approval at the January 2025 regular meeting. And so, and people have a chance to comment at that point, as evidenced by the fact it has to be advertised that it's coming up. So we're dealing with the first step tonight.
But you did receive feedback before and made comments.
Every change here is driven by the comments that we got back.
I
And it's
think,
designed to try to address those.
I think year one needs to be double to cover this last summer, at least. I don't think that's asking too much.
And that's why I'm here to get whatever direction the governing board wants to
Well,
give me on that.
y'all know, I think it should be more, but I mean, it should at least be double to cover last summer because they got full use of it and it was finished, you know?
I did not touch that section simply because there were no comments about that. Not disputing what you're saying.
Oh, there is now.
You know,
So you're asking, Jeff, for the council to give you permission to advertise it, to put it on the agenda to final approval
Final,
in January 9?
January 9th, 2025. That's
That's
why I have to,
at 6 PM.
at 6 PM, which is why I have to get the ad out and run to meet that 30-day deadline.
And that's why you need action tonight, so you can meet the deadline to advertise.
So that this can move forward and be completed. And I will say, it's instructive that the state statute says the ad that is run has to include includes the statement that it's the intent of the governing board to approve the lease. So that's why it ties in that I'm trying to make sure I understand what you want as the governing board, so that it can be a truthful statement that whatever we clean up is what you intend to approve.
But I think, to Joey's point, I think it's certainly appropriate to make year one double what it would have been to 2,000 in light of this year. And so year two will be 2,000, and then it will continue to escalate up to the 3-step.
So it's,
So we'll have 3 steps instead of,
okay, so year one will be $2,000, and then everything else stays the same as currently printed.
And just, you took a year out of the escalation. You made year 1 and 2, 1, 2, yeah.
Wait a second, do what? What'd you say?
On the section 3.01 on page 5, as I'm interpreting it, where it has 3.1A and has lease year 1 equals 1,000, if that's the motion that's adopted, at the end of the day, that would be changed from $1,000 to $2,000 for year 1.
there'll be 3 steps.
Recover
There'll be
this
3
year's
steps
lease.
instead of 4 in the rent. You know what I'm saying? Instead of
So
1,
you're gonna go
2,
2,
3 to
1,
5,
2, you're gonna be
it'll
2, 1, 2, 3?
3 to 5.
Okay.
Right.
So at this point, it would be 2,000, 2,000, 3, 3, 3, then 5, 5, 5, 5, and 5.
yeah, there is no 1 anymore.
No more 1.
One went away.
Very good. Good plan.
I think that's,
Who's on first?
that's,
Yes.
that's appropriate.
Yes.
And then, so do we need a formal motion or just
Yes.
consensus?
Yes, and I'm just throwing out there, if you're good with everything else, but with that, anything in the lines of approving it as presented with the modification of changing 3.01A to reflect $2,000 and directing the city attorney to finalize the agreement with that change and to advertise for the January meeting.
I so move.
Motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Moffett. Discussion. More discussion.
But they have not agreed to this yet.
No,
This is what we think they will agree to.
well, no,
This is
I,
what we want.
I'm getting to find what
Okay,
you
what if
want.
they don't agree to it? What do we do then?
It's a matter of whether or not you want to say that's it, that's the agreement, or not, or
This
tell me
is
to
the
do more.
original lease with their markups on it.
What now?
I think we've addressed their concerns.
This is their original, the
That's what I thought
original
we
lease
addressed. So we believe they will
with
agree.
their markup
Yeah, okay.
that Jeff has corrected through the body of the lease.
Correct.
And this is what we think is their intent. It is our intent.
To answer your question, they don't have to sign this. They can pack up, they can take their team, sell it to Capital Broadcasting, and it'll go down these summers, and that'll be the end of it. I mean, that's, well, I'm just saying, that's,
Well, I mean, yeah.
you know, that's, any and everything is a possibility.
Oh, sure.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Jeff, you have authorization to draft this into the clean document and have it ready to go for the January meeting
Yes, sir.
for the second reading
Yes, sir. Notice will be published on Tuesday of next
and
week.
advertised. All right,
Mayor, one item not on the agenda I'd like to bring the council's attention to. Earlier this week, Mr. Leonard and Mr. Nuttall received notification from NCDOT that the traffic signals, normally street lingo, stoplight, the traffic signals are not warranted, meaning it doesn't meet the threshold, and they'd like to remove them at these three intersections.
Listen carefully.
Listen carefully, please. Church Street and Kivett Street. Park Street and Kivett Street. Park Street and Sunset Avenue. Now, Mr. Nuttall and I will send you out an email to write these so you can comment back on. Mr. Nuttall and Mr. Leonard have met, negotiated, spoken to Mr. Monroe, our district supervisor of Division 8, District 1, about what the staff feels about it. We're investigating it with police and fire for emergency response. They'd like to, the department, meaning NCDOT, would like to remove all these existing signals and replace them with all-way stops or four-way stops. So that they want to know if the city has any feedback before they move forward. So please, it's not our initiation. At least they ask us. So please, we'll send you an email. Please, if you want to write out there and look and think about it, respond to Mr. Nuttall so we can get back to Mr. Monroe. We just want to throw that out there for the council.
I just happened in on that review the other day, and it just to throw out, the only one of those that's even possible to consider talking about would be Park and Kivett, in my opinion. I mean, the blind spots on Church and Kivett, and to have a four-way stop on Sunset, that's unfathomable.
I think the problem for us is they're all right there in the travelway of the high school.
And the elementary school, and
And
the
the
fire
elementary
department,
school,
and
and the fire station.
And we're getting ready to put apartments in down there
Right,
here,
right. So
that's
again,
gonna
it's
have a lot
not
of traffic.
something Asheboro City staff's initiating, we're reacting to. But we will send you an email and we'll send you, a little map so you can see where they are.
And I will
How much
assure
will
you
our input
that
be
none
weighed?
of this has anything to do with traffic. The next step is if you wanna keep them, here's the key.
They may do that, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
That's where this is headed. This don't have anything to do with four-way stops.
Well,
I will add that, they did indicate that this is pretty early in their investigative, phase of this. And, I do think they will take into account our feedback. We've already expressed some concerns to them. I'll add that in addition to a conversion to always stop, there would be pedestrian improvements. There would be other additional signage and things that would take place around that conversion. But we're several months, I think, away from a decision. And at this point, we just want you all and the public to know that that's being contemplated and to share any comments with us. And we will put that in combine that with what we've already shared to the district.
Mayor, for me,
This is a statewide initiative.
Statewide initiative.
These are the ones we've got. I'm telling you, this is a
Statewide initiative.
cost.
What? Statewide, this.
Reduce costs.
Cut their costs.
Yeah, that's what we need on.
so, Mayor,
These
if I may
things
ask
are
a question.
expensive.
Mr. Leonard, where do we stand on our three that we do have already? Are we moving
It's a
forward?
good
with
idea
looking
when we
at
want
Elm
to
and
stop.
Worth and
Yes, we are.
Maine and.
We're moving forward with that, yes.
We've met as a staff, we've had PD and fire and EMS involved, and we'll be coming back to you in January with their recommendation.
Well, the worst thing that happened is we end up with the nothing.
We didn't initiate this, I just stand by
You know,
what I
I mean,
said.
we,
Trade 3 for 3.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we trade three obscure lights that hardly do anything.
Yeah.
For three that are absolutely
Essential.
imperative.
And I assure you, this new ones we be getting, equipment is newer, and that is a low bar.
Well, anyway, Mayor, that's out there, so we'll communicate with you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, that's all we have on the staff level.
You have in front of you a blue and white shaded page report that lines up everything that we're gonna be dealing with over the next few weeks of holiday season. Youth theater on the 6th and 8th. Christmas parade tomorrow night at 7. The council will be riding on a flatbed truck. And we'll gather at the head of the parade there, just past the table on Church Street. And then Saturday at noon is the Asheboro Fire and Rescue Christmas Party. And if you really want to celebrate Saturday, you can come to the airport during the morning meal and have
The
pancakes.
Pearl Harbor Day pancakes.
Pearl Harbor Day, the museum does every year, and Kiwanis Club does the cooking. So, and then Saturday and Tuesday, the 7th and 10th is Tranquil Santa. That's an autism event, or?
It's, yeah, low sensory.
Low sensory, okay. Mondays, we've got Caroling Charlie tours coming up on the 9th, 16th, 23rd.
Are those tickets for the trolley tours, Jonathan?
They sold out?
It's pretty much sold out. There may be one or two floating around if you can find somebody
And
that
how
can't
about the
go on
youth?
the one they bought, but.
How about the youth theater? Are they sold out? Do you know probably?
Well, opening night was actually tonight. They don't do anything tomorrow because of the parade, and then Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
Uh,
Those are the two big events. That's
Thursday the 12th is the Police Department Christmas Party and Awards Night. Thursday the 12th at 7 is just a Christmas evening
I think that's J.C. Burroughs.
at the Sunset Theater. Is that a reading or a performance?
He actually rented the theater for a concert.
13th is Christmas on Sunset from 6 to 9. Monday and Tuesday, the 16th and 17th is one of the hottest things going in Asheboro during the holiday season, and that's Band and Roosters Rockin' Christmas, and I understand that is sold out, both nights.
Both nights.
17th, Christmas with the clauses at the rec center. 17th at 6 is also Stay Well 10th anniversary celebration.
So that Tuesday, the 17th, the council is invited to the Stay Well. That's the adult daycare down on Curry Drive, which is where
the old
the
KW was.
at the end of this road there. That's the 10th. Hard to believe that's 10 years ago that thing was built. But the mayor's been asked to say a few words, and it's hard to believe it's 10 years that's been down there. That provides a really good service.
You better keep your badge on, not a resident.
Well, at least you'll write your speech for
I
you.
may be closer to that than you think.
So if you've never been there, it's a remarkable.
I was not
facility.
aware that they'd asked me to speak.
Well, you've been drafted.
And is it just like an open house?
It's an
or-
open house. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
All right.
You can drive the recliners out her coat.
Friday the 20th is Friday night bluegrass with the band True Grass, which is always popular. And then Tuesday through Thursday of Christmas and Wednesday of New Year's is city offices are closed for the celebration.
And we left off, Mayor, December 31st is the mayor's birthday.
That's right. Big deal.
The whole globe celebrates parties on your birthday, Mayor.
And nobody knows why. All right, anything else to come before us tonight?
I want to say how pleasing it is this Christmas season. I want to thank all the staff. I want to pay special attention. I want to thank my friend and fellow professional, Mr. Sugg, for the outstanding work done on the zookeeper's lease. I mean, he has burnt the midnight oil literally, and it's proud to serve with him.
He's certainly been under the gun the last few months, not just for that, but many other things.
All the decorations look beautiful as always. I mean, just,
They really
and
do.
city staff does all that and helps so much with the parade and Christmas on Sunset and everything. It just looks wonderful.
And I'm not sure, but I think there's more than 10,000 people down there. I don't think there's 50,000 like people say. Now, you
Yeah.
know, part
Parade or what?
for the parade, but I think
Yeah.
there's more than 10,000.
Oh,
I would have
parade.
guessed 10 or, I would have guessed 12 or 14.
It's always big.
It'll be really big tomorrow night. It's appropriately cool/cold.
Well, it ain't Christmas if it ain't cold.
Yeah.
I want to thank Alyssa for all of her hard work putting the tree lighting ceremony together, and Kelly, the downtown Christmas events group, and I was blown away by the crowd. We had at least 150 and maybe
was
closer
great.
to 200. And the interesting thing to note there is that they came downtown for the tree lighting. They weren't there for the parade and just happened to stop. And then we had the choral ensemble from the high school, Park Street Choral Ensemble, and it was just a nice event. Lisa did a great job putting all that together, and with help of the chamber, and Adam, thank you. We're gonna freeze our buns off tomorrow night, but it'll be Christmas. We've been out there before when it was cold.
Has it ever been this cold though?
It's a time or two.
Once or
Was it
twice.
2 years ago?
It's
Wasn't
gonna
it
be.
70? Wasn't it 70?
Yes,
2 years
we've
ago?
had some balmy years here recently.
Yeah, you've been
Tomorrow night's
around
gonna be a little
28 years
shock.
Like I have,
It was
no.
one Christmas on Sunset,
So,
it was absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, there was a Christmas on Sunset. It was super cold.
And
Yes.
we got great staff people, and I will say that what I said about Addie being a great hire, I think Alyssa is a great hire also. And we're making some real progress here in Asheboro. We've got a lot to be proud of, and the next few years are gonna be big. So, let's start, I'm gonna reverse it. Start down here with Joey.
I don't know the seating configuration for tomorrow night, but I claim an inside seat.
There's no seating. No seating.
Is it standing?
You're standing
Okay, well, I'll be in the middle of all
and hanging on.
Trying to figure out how Hutchins can put a heater on their desk.
Well, I've got one. I've got several in the shop, so. I don't think they'd appreciate it.
Bill?
Well, we're having the minor league soccer tryouts Saturday, right? I heard that on,
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know if it's actual, well, yeah, I think there is trials involved in it, yes.
yeah, I heard that on WGH TV about that, so.
So that's the minor league soccer team out of High Point, the Carolina Core.
Yeah.
And they're having
They're holding clinics first and then.
clinics
tryouts.
and open tryouts, but their players invited from
And this will be their second
Oregon.
time down here.
That's
Yeah, they really like coming down here.
They love the park. Everybody that sees it loves the park.
A year ago, my dog got loose. I'm not taking her this Saturday. Remember that?
The same dog?
There's a pattern here, John.
Oh my gosh.
Can I suggest a car with a roof?
The more John chased the dog, the more the dog thought they were playing.
If you've ridden with John, you know why you want to jump out.
That's why Martha does all the driving now.
Mr. Burke.
You know, we have pointed out certain city employees tonight, but, you know, you could go from any department within our city and you could find, I can't think of one that I wouldn't say is an outstanding individual, and they do a great job for our city, from whoever the newest hire is to the oldest man or woman that we have here. I mean, everybody does an outstanding job. And man, this year's flown by. So Merry Christmas, y'all. We're looking forward to a very prosperous and happy 2025.
Hard to believe.
If we're gonna talk about city employees, I'm gonna say a last professional Merry Christmas to John Ogden. We'll be amateurs after this. But thank you for.
Thank you.
This Christmas.
Be has-beens.
Yep.
John, you're leaving a big legacy and a lot to be proud of.
You are too, Mayor.
I will take this opportunity to give kudos to Mr. Sermon. The zookeepers have a chance to host the SAC conference tournament in baseball, and they've been talking to them well over a year about that, and it does have the slightest possibility of an overlap between the high school playoffs and the SAC tournament. And
I got confirmation at 5 o'clock this evening that they did get the award for 2025.
okay,
So we'll be
so
there on May the 9th and 10th.
Jonathan made the call, exactly what we were talking about today in the lease. He was the referee in the conflict and worked it out. The high schools agreed and the zookeepers agreed, and everybody's on board, and we're gonna host a SAC conference tournament here.
South Atlantic.
Look like if push comes to shove, there might even be some possibility to have a doubleheader. I mean.
Good.
Yeah, that's one of the possibilities, yes, sir.
Means we can't wear out that field. We cannot wear out that field.
We got to improve in baseball, though.
Well, you all may all be aware that the high school 3A and the high school 2A football championships were moved to the Sportsplex because of all the rain we had that week. Is that right?
Soccer,
Yeah. The semifinals.
Of soccer.
Soccer, yeah.
Soccer, I'm sorry, soccer.
Adams football.
Well, good.
All right, so, John,
Good Merry Christmas to everyone. Still proud of my man Jonathan. I'm freezing up here, and Jonathan's got on shorts and his golf shirt.
oh, he was out there setting up the PA on Saturday night for the tree lighting in his shorts. He said, "It's my kind of weather."
I'll have my shorts on tomorrow for the Christmas parade, too.
That's hardcore.
Jonathan and Steve Brown.
That's right. Mark.
Just sort of impromptu a couple of weeks ago, when the Blue Comets were going off to play for the state championship. It was really nice to see, just really on the spur of the moment, the town came out, saw them off, the police department, fire department, gave them an escort from the high school to the bypass. And I think Alyssa got the word out, and it was well attended, and it just gave you a great sense of pride to be, a Blue Comet and from Asheboro. It was a really great event. So, and Merry Christmas, everybody.
Mr. Swear.
I wish Councilman Walker success in his little upcoming cutting. And wish him speedy recovery from that.
Thank you.
And,
Yes, well, you won't be on the truck tomorrow night.
I've been laughing about the weather. I'll be on hydrocodone sitting by a fireplace.
and also want to commend the police department for the job they did with the fundraising today for one of their fellow officers. It was an excellent event. The hot dogs were good. smooth process. We appreciate it. Appreciate y'all stepping up for her.
And we're proud, we're as employee base standing behind her.
Yeah.
Fine person, fine police officer, fine spouse, fine mom. Just makes you really sad when, you know, bad things happen to good people.
She was down there today when I went, and I visited with her for a few minutes. But, not only was she down there, I believe every uniform officer in Asheboro was down there.
There's quite a few of us down there, sir.
Yep. And, it was well done. I sold a lot of tickets and got a lot of donations.
We got a really good team over there. Captain Curry leads a really good team over there.
Yep.
Well, since we're on the employee theme tonight, I continue to get a lot of comments from residents being extremely thankful for our leaf pickup system based on what's going on in Greensboro. Just a lot of people have made that comment to me the last month or so. And so just since we're thanking our city employees, really those folks that do that work and everybody in this room, and just wish everybody Merry Christmas and looking forward to 2025.
And watch the social media for the sanitation schedule that week. Every 7 years, Christmas is on Wednesday, and every 7 years, that really throws us a curveball, so just watch the schedule. Or ride by my house, and if the can's out, roll yours.
I had a citizen call and say, yeah, my yard people just blowing leaves out to the street, and the wind's blowing, I think wind's blowing toward the house, they're gonna all be back in my yard before they even get out of the driveway. And can I call somebody or whatever? I said, well, we're up to our eyeballs working on leaf pickup. All the trucks are busy, we're all over town, might get it, might not, but yeah, call 626-1234 and tell the lady you got leaves out by the street.
Ask for Donna, right.
Called me back about an hour later and said, they came and got my leaves. Now, they might have been right there in the neighborhood, but they
But people
got the
notice,
leaves.
it is important.
And people are thankful for the certain rule.
I
didn't know you had did that. I'll call you when my leaves are in the street this week, okay?
Yeah,
I learned how that works. That's great.
All right, well, Merry Christmas, everybody. This is a little earlier than it has been.
Well, let's don't waste it.
We're adjourned.
Yes, 6 o'clock.
Yes, sir, you too.